Hi, and welcome back to resumes. We're going to be focusing in on assignment 6.2.1 and resumes, and also this translates into the final for you guys. But also, I want to make this broad enough that this is real world material for you guys when you actually fill out a resume, because I am a current tech ed teacher, and I truly believe that everything that I teach in the classroom has to relate to the real world. So, I'm going to be sharing with you guys some personal stories, some advice, some tips, some tricks, because what I'm about to share with you guys, there is no perfect resume that you guys can make, just better ones. So let's get into it and get started. All right, so resumes. Number one, everything must be perfect. I hope you are catching my joke right now because perfect is misspelled. When you first get your resume and you're like, I finally did it, it's all done, get, I kid you not, 10, 20, 30 people. Look it over. Make sure that every single word is spelled correctly. Make sure that everything is aligned correctly. Make sure that it looks visually appealing. Make sure that the font is consistent. Make sure that everything is good. Definitely, you want to find that one English friend of yours who is really good at catching typos and things. Give them $10, make them dinner or something, but get them to proofread your resume. I kid you not, I have seen time and time again people who turn in resumes and they don't hear back from employers and like, what's going on? And I tell them, I go, give me your resume. I look at it and go, dude, bro, you've got like 3 errors in here. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, this ended up in the round filing cabinet. They looked at me and go, huh? And I go, it's in the trash can. Oh, because listen, this is the first time you guys are going to probably talk to them or first impression. So this has to be perfect. There is no room for any errors on your resume and also your application. So double, triple, quadruple check, and that's also bullet point number three. Make sure you look it over. Everything has to be perfect. Sometimes when I've hired other teachers before, they would give me a stack of 15, 16 different resumes, and they go, okay, we're interviewing 6 people, and I've usually never met these people whatsoever, so all I have to go off is a resume, and it pretty much shows me that if they don't take the time and effort to care about their resume, then the employer is definitely not going to either. So a lot of times, the first round, I'd go through the 15, 16 resumes, I would see if I could find any errors whatsoever, and those would go in the trash can first. Then normally I would cut it down to 10. And I'm talking teachers, guys, like people who have a bachelor's or a master's with errors in them. So don't think that your resume is going to be perfect on the first shot. Make sure you have somebody check it. Number two, this is kind of a philosophical one. There is no perfect way to do a resume. There are just better ways. You don't want a lot of blank space. You want to make sure that the font is consistent. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that. And that actually is a really good one to lead on to number four. Use a template. I'm going to bring over Microsoft Word. You guys can probably find this on Google Docs too. I'll pull that up and you guys can find templates. Don't start from scratch. I've been teaching business and marketing for 10 years. I've taught the whole Microsoft Office package and I know how to use every single little bell and whistle you can find in Microsoft Word, and I will never do a resume from scratch. So, definitely use a template. It makes life so much easier. It does almost everything for you except for input the information. Last one, when you are submitting a resume, say you are going for, oh, I don't know, a teaching position, make sure that you tailor the information. There's going to be parts of your resume that, in your generic one, that just don't fit for being a teacher. For example, my first job ever was prepping baseball and softball fields at Franklin Park in Spokane, Washington. We would do, we drag the field, we chalk it, we get all that stuff done, and then we'd finish the field up in the day and then we would leave. Well, thinking back, I had that on my first resume because I didn't have that many jobs before, and now looking at it, I go, oh, I would never include that on my resume because it doesn't fit what I'm going for. So if you have lots of different experiences, then make sure that it fits into the job that you want, because realistically, a principal doesn't care that I can drag a baseball field and chalk it and rake it and water it correctly. They don't care. But other things, like for example, I did a lot of volunteering with a youth group called Young Life, and I worked with teenagers and high school and middle school level, and I led groups, I organized field trips, and we did overnight camps and different things. So that showed a lot of the same skills that you would need to be a teacher, that you can interact with high school kids and whatnot. Actually, I thought it was kind of funny. I just went from being a high school student to Young Life Leader, so it's like, aha, I was just a high schooler. I know how to talk to high school kids. And then all of a sudden you become a leader and you're like, oh, I've gone to the other side. I am no longer a high school person. I am now an adult who's literally 1 or 2 years older than these high school kids you're leading. And it's a whole different world. So that does show that you have those same skills. Same would go if you want to work for a restaurant. Find things that people would want when hiring a server or a busser or something. Find those same skills and things you've already done. Okay, so for some of you guys who are worrying, you're like, Filippini, I have never had a job. Well, guess what? We can still build a resume. So there's two types of resumes out there. There's one, a chronological resume. This focuses on jobs and experience that you've already had. And you normally want to do this in reverse chronological order when you put them in. For example, at the top of the paper, you're going to put the most recent job you've had, and then the less recent job, and then the farthest away job. I like to do things in threes, so if you have 3 jobs you've had, put them 1, 2, 3, get your best ones. Once you've had more than 3 jobs, well, now you're just bragging. But find your top 3 that work. Top one should be the most recent, second is after that, and then third is the farthest away. Okay, for those of you guys who've never had a job before, this is what we call a functional resume. You're going to focus on your skills, your abilities, and any other experiences that you've had. Maybe you've played team sports, so highlight those skills. Maybe you were a team captain. Maybe you were in charge of something, so include that. Maybe skills, maybe with your parents or your guardians. You've helped build a shed, or you've helped collaborated on some gardening project or something that fits into the job you want. So include those skills and abilities. So don't worry if you've never ever had a job before. You can make a functional resume, and we'll pull up some examples of that here soon. Okay, last items. Here's a good news on when I see a lot of things entered in to your guys' assignment. A lot of times you guys are like, hey, I don't have my high school diploma yet, so I'm going to leave that blank. Don't leave your high school diploma blank. Here's the good news. Put the name of your school, whether it's Graduation Alliance, or maybe you're in a charter program with us, or maybe you go to a public school or a private school. Include that name and then put in the expected graduation month and year. So for example, you might put in where I went to school, Shada Park High School, June 2019 or 2020. Let me give some future dates so I'm not dating myself on this video. So pretend that you are almost graduated, which you guys probably are pretty close to doing, or maybe not so far away, but make sure you guys put when you guys are going to graduate. Skills, you guys put in examples of organized, on time, works well with other team members. And I'm going to get on a soapbox. I'm going to skip over for this. I've had so many, I kid you not, moms go, I have no skills. And I just want to give you a verbal whiplashing because I go, yes, you have more skills than anyone I possibly know because you have the world's hardest job. You know how to be a motivator. You know how to be a disciplinarian. You know how to be a leader. You know how to get people to places on time. You know how to organize chaos. You know how to feed people. You know how to, what would be the word? Crisis management. So you have all these skills there that you have been applying as being a parent. So for 0 seconds, if you put in there that you're just a parent, I've seen this before, and you have no skills, I say garbage. You have more skills than you ever know possible that perfectly translate into working in the workforce. All right, volunteer work. In the assignment, it is not necessary if you don't have any because maybe you just don't have any, but I want you guys to think about it. Maybe you want to become a firefighter. Well, what volunteer work would look good for somebody applying to be a firefighter? So I know there's volunteer firefighting squads out there. Think about in your local neighborhood because we have students all across the country, so I can't tell you specifically where one would be in your area, but find volunteer opportunities. This looks good. And if you haven't done this yet, Definitely go out and say, okay, I want to volunteer. They're not going to pay me any money, but this is going to pay off later. So think about work that you guys can do now that'll pay off later. For example, my wife is a high school counselor, and when she was going through her program at her university, she volunteered at a counseling center as a secretary, and she did it a few hours a week. And then when she got picked into her master's program, out of 100 applicants, they only picked 12. And they said because of her volunteer work, it showed that she went above and beyond anybody else, and that's how she got into her master's program. So definitely don't overlook volunteer work, but do be picky on which volunteer work you want to do so that it strings together and helps you apply for that dream job that you guys want, that dream career. Um, let's see, objective statement. So, or final comment. On ours, it says final comment, like, why should we hire you? Uh, Definitely give me a good reason. Right now, this might be awkward for some of you guys who are really humbled. This is your time to market yourself, brag about yourself. We're giving you full permission to brag. Say, why should we pick you? This isn't like the Bachelor Bachelorette, but tell us, nobody's going to get a rose at the end. Tell us, why should we hire you? And then after we hire you, you can go back to being humble. Objective statements. In a resume, this is totally old school, and some people are throwing this out the window, so here's my 2 cents on this. Objective statement might be like, I want to be a business and marketing teacher at a high school, or I want to be a server at McDonald's, or anything that you guys are applying for. Now, some people may have an objective statement. Some companies say we don't want one, so what should you do? Here's my plan. Always be prepared. Have one resume in hand that does have an objective statement, and have one resume in hand that does not. I've done this before, and I've always asked them, like, hey, do you need an objective statement in the resume? And one time they go, oh, no, we don't. And then they pause and they go, do you have one with it? And I go, I have both. And they just looked at me like, wow, this person is really prepared. So right there, I got bonus points and ended up with the job. So maybe show off a little bit. So be prepared. Like I said before, some companies are keeping them, some are throwing the objective statements out the window. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to try to drag in Microsoft Word for you guys. So this is Microsoft Word. Hey, there it is. Okay, in the templates, type in resume. And it's going to start to give us resumes, and over here, and you start to see chronological, and then you're going to see some functional ones show up in here. So anyways, find one that really works for you. Oh, there's functional. Find a resume that works for you, and then start with the template. So I'm going to click on this one. Yep, we're going to create it. And threw it over here. So as you guys can see, it's going to put in the resume right here, and you can just start typing away. Now, as you guys look, see the format, like objective, education, skills and ability. All the format is very consistent, stays the same. It's telling me that this is Cambria font at size 14, and it is also bold. So make sure that it's very consistent. Anything that you guys don't need in here, definitely get rid of. But as you guys can see in here, this is a functional resume. It focuses a lot on your skills and ability, but then I find this funny. They're like, experience. I go, wait. A functional experience means you have no experience. So I find it funny that they've kept it in here. Go through, you can find this on Google Docs in their search. You can find this on Microsoft Word. There is LibreOffice. You can go searching for templates. Like I said before, do not start from scratch. The most tenured senior, I've got some friends who are professors at a local university here. They use a template. Don't go from scratch. We all use this. It's so much easier, so much nicer. And as you saw before, there are hundreds of templates in here. Find one that you like, that works for you. And then my last 2 cents, it's going to ask you for a reference page where you're going to have different people, maybe bosses, maybe managers, maybe coaches, teachers, counselors, principals before that you're going to add in. Your reference page gets its own separate page. You don't just add it on. So maybe your resume is 1 to 2 pages. I like to say never more than 2 pages. Try to keep just to one. Your reference page is actually a completely separate page. It's just going to say references up top. It's going to have the people's names, their title, maybe they're a coach, teacher, boss, employer, manager, whoever, and then their phone number. Some people are requesting emails, some people are requesting phone numbers. I've actually had when I've applied for jobs, they're like, send this link to your former employer so that they can fill out a survey for us. So every job's a little bit different. The other part about your references, it can never be a family member. Sorry, they are biased. They're going to be like, oh, my son or daughter's the best person in the world. You should absolutely hire them so they will move out of our house. Yeah, don't put family members, but do put people who have a positive, something positive to say about you. Don't choose the bosses that you never got along with. It probably won't work well unless they want to get rid of you and then they say really positive stuff that might not be true. I don't know. You plan that one out. And then lastly, I was just going to put in here if you have any questions for me, please feel free to message me, send me an email, whatever questions you guys have. I really personally love the questions where like, this is real world, like question, I'm applying for this job, should I put this or this in there? I totally love it. So if you want to get off just the assignment in general and you have a real world question for me, go for it. I love those questions. I am here to help you guys, whether it is pass the assignment or help you get a job. That is my whole goal as a teacher, is to help you guys get jobs, because I believe that's one of the big things in people's lives that can make a giant difference, and that is getting a career. And my whole focus is helping you guys get a career and finding something that you guys love, or at least at the bare minimum like or can tolerate, because hey, we all need a job. I love when people are like, why are you applying for this job? I need money. Pretty straightforward. So anyways, I hope you guys are having a great day or great night, and you guys have a good one. Take care.